Welcome back, friend. Now what we are going to do is we are going to continue to move on the human experiential way. Now, hopefully you're able to kind of walk through these in order. If not, that's okay. But we start out with the 41. The 41 is this hunger to have a new experience, this hunger to, step into the nervousness of the inexperience, to, provide an experience to the life. Then we hit the 30, and the 30 is really about just surrendering to the fates. Because what the fates really do for us is, have us trust that our frequency is fully equipped to interact with those that it needs to interact with, as long as we're not on the mental plane making decisions from there. And now we stand in the 36. Well, the 36 and the 35, this is the channel of transitoriness. So as we move up to, from hunger to just surrendering to the fates, the 36 is crisis and the 35 is progress. And as we move up to the throat center and come to this place of communication and action and manifestation, this is the fundamental piece that is so important for us to know, is that the human experiential way is how we manifest. On the other side, we have the spleen. Spleen's not a motor. So logic doesn't manifest. That's why experience and witnessing our experiences is so important. Because once we can just drop into the power of our ability to observe, that observer effect, that witnessing, that is how manifestation is presented and comes to fruition on our planet. So the 36, we're going to start here, the gate of crisis, the darkening of the light. So again, let me just get my little pointer. We started here in the 41, we moved up to the 30, now we're in the 36. Again, we are sitting here in this solar plex. And the solar plex is this emotional intelligence. Well, how do we come to emotional intelligence? Surrendering to the fates, and then allowing for the inexperience to come to an experienced position. So the gate of crisis, this darkening of the light, this is a manifested energy. Why do we talk about manifested energy? Well, here we are from the 36 to the 35. The channel itself so say somebody just had this channel in their design, it creates a manifester. Anytime you have a motor connected to the throat besides the sacral center, that is where you get a manifester, and we discussed that. So the stream here is feeling. The circuitry is the collective abstract sensing. Sensing, sensing is all around emotional. It's about feeling. It's about, not understanding, sorry. It's about, experiencing this in our physical bodies versus anything else. Sometimes my laser plays around here. So the theme of sharing, again, collective, right? Collective, all circuitry with collective is about sharing, because we're sharing our collective experience with each other. The center, again, solar plex. The quarter is actually the mind. So this is initiation. Now, I'm not saying that you should be initiated through the mind. Our mind needs to be able to decode the experiences that we're having. So mind is always important to have the mind, the very first quarter is to have the mind clear, uncluttered, and in perfect working order, so that the rest of it can, the rest of the human experience can happen. So when we look here, we are, crisis is something that we get to experience and yet perceive as well. So the timeline always, when we are looking at the collective abstract side, is always in the past, because we never can come to a realization, and we'll talk about this more when we get up to how the mind processes this, but we can never come to a realization of the experience until the experience has been completed. And that completion allows us to reflect and look at the experience through clear eyes, because if the emotional center is involved, remember there's emotional highs, emotional lows, and the mind can get really caught up in there. So we want to be able to have this clarity, and clarity comes over time. So the sexuality piece of this gate, the gate of sexual crisis. So what Ra calls this is actually the penetrator. This is the greatest natural courage. Why do we say that? Well, we're completely inexperienced here. Completely inexperienced. So it takes courage to step through that inexperience into the experience. So it has no idea the consequences that will be brought by stepping into an experience. This is either where we enter or exit an experience. This is where our emotional clarity will let us know, is it time to enter in? Is it not time to enter in? Now, I'm saying everyone's emotional clarity, because whether or not you have the solar plex defined, whether or not you have this gate defined or not, the seat of nervousness and the seat of new experiences brings this energy. We all have everything. It is what is defined in our body graph really is, what we can rely on. The rest of it is what we're learning. So for me, I rely on this 36 gate because it is a dormant potential in my body graph. And allowing for that energy to then, provide me with a nuance to my decision making. Because anytime we have our inner authority, it's the holistic view of the entire body graph that is coming together to make that decision. So there will be a guidance from my solar plex, from my sacral. That gut response that says, this is the correct experience to enter into, or this is the correct timing to exit, or however you want to look at that. And it has absolutely nothing to do with emotional clarity. It has to do with available energy, but the available energy is taking cues from for example, for me, that 36th trait that's hanging there, because that's where it's gaining its wisdom. That's how it's filtering the emotional field. So anytime, no matter what your authority is, you have to take in every single aspect of your design so that you come to a holistic view. I am breaking down every one of these mechanics so that you can see how it is represented on our plane, but it isn't about getting caught up in it. So there is possibility and awareness to release or manifest a feeling. So we had the fuel down here. That brings us to this possibility of whether or not that expression is going to be experienced or not. If it's going to be expressed or not. Are we going to be able to manifest or not? And that is all based off of a feeling. That releasing of one feeling, focusing in on one feeling, so that 41st gate, that hunger, isn't scattered all over the place mentally. It is honing in on that one experience so that it can get, basically it's like wringing a cloth. You have all this water in the cloth and then you wring it out. It's like, let's get all the juiciness out of this experience that we can, and we can only do that by concentrating down, by contracting down into this one experience. So it really is the gate of inexperience. Inexperience naturally always seeks experience. And it is going from inexperience to experience. This really is crisis. That is completely natural. All crisis is this inexperience to experience. So emotional manifestation has a golden rule. Nothing can be done until one has waited out the wave. This is the most important thing about the human experiential way. Like you and I, everybody is feeling emotions, always. We are emotional beings. It is right in, put into the structure of the human design system so that we can really begin to recognize it. Now, it's about understanding that all of us, every single one of us, if we are doing stuff on the very, very highs, or if we're doing stuff on the very, very lows, there is no clarity there. There is no understanding or sensing there. And, one of my things that I say a lot is that common sense there has absolutely fallen right out of the bucket. Because our world is now designed to be so spontaneous, and yes, there are people that have the authority within them to be spontaneous. But that spontaneity isn't coming from emotional highs or emotional lows. However, that's how we are experiencing life. So for the most part, spontaneous people are jumping into experiences on the highs. They're jumping in and being spontaneous on the lows. Or jumping out, I guess, is how I want to explain that. But even if you are spontaneous, so even if you are sacral, even if you are splenic, that isn't about feelings. The sacral is about available energy. And the splenic is all about health and wellness, safety. So if there's emotions being brought into those decisions, that isn't yours. So there's this emotional excitement and you want to be spontaneous and jump in on that emotional excitement, wrong decision. Because the sacral is only telling you what it has energy for or not. And the spleen is saying, I am either going to be healthy and safe in this experience or not. So do you see what I'm saying here? There is so many different intricacies, so many different, levels of understanding this, okay? So this is not about the denial of experience. There is a process. I say this all the time. Process. There's no quick fixes. There's no nothing. It is about a process and timing to get clear through waiting out the wave. Whether or not you are emotional, there is a process because human design is a cellular process. This is not a mental process. So we can get caught up in a loop if we are not waiting for clarity. And you'll understand this a little deeper when we go to the format of the 5342, and that format is all about cycles. So when clear, going into an experience, then they move cleanly through the experience and into the next, gaining a lifetime of wisdom. One experience after another experience after another experience. Tasting and touching many experiences is the accomplishment of this channel. So taste and touch reside in the emotional solar plex. Touch is really important for the tribe, and taste is really important for the experience. So there's this sweetness on this side of the body graph, and you'll get a deeper nuance of that when we go into the biology piece. But on the solar plex side, there is sweetness. We need sugar. We need this ability to taste the sweetness in the experience. Remember? Remember. It is not about figuring out the emotional wave. That's not what this is. This is about experiencing it. Letting the emotional wave flow through you. It isn't about, letting it toss you and turn you. It's about riding it. Let it just be. Witness the ups. Witness the lows. And when you're not clear, you are nervous, and that's okay. Really unclear, really nervous. The closer you get to clarity, the less nervous you are, and the nervousness never leaves. It is just less power. So anytime you have someone with an emotional solar plex defined, if this is you, if you have emotional solar plex, nervousness is just saying you're just not clear. You're not clear yet. You're not clear of the invitation. You're not clear of what action you need to take. You're not clear of when to enter in with your energy, period. The nervous system needs time. Needs time to come to that clarity of when that clarity comes, it will just allow you to know the emotional intelligence. The emotional intelligence will let you know, hey, this is now the time. So crisis is where your fears of vulnerability and inexperience are resolved or transformed into an experience. We are all vulnerable. We are all vulnerable. And, one of the authors and thought leaders of our time, Brene Brown, talks so much about vulnerability. We had to be vulnerable. We've all had experiences, some really awesome, some really, really terrible. And it's the vulnerability of knowing that those experiences happen through you, not to you. There's nothing to be shameful of. There's just an awareness there. And that's how we transform experience. You can create and meet challenges of change and growth through emotional crisis. And as you gain emotional clarity, over time, you learn how to handle emotional crisis created by others. Our world is so full of a bunch of people that absolutely are amplifying emotional crisis after emotional crisis after emotional crisis. Your feelings move from hope to pain and helps drive your experience toward change. And allowing your feelings to naturally unfold allows you to reach into your emotional depth and access your own truth, which is also valuable in helping others who are in crisis. The variety of experiences you encounter and your patient movement through them allows you to overcome any feelings of inadequacy. Okay, inadequacy here, there is a fear of inadequacy in the 36, and that nervousness of inadequacy, which you were introduced to when I talked about the centers, that nervousness of inadequacy is this nervousness of this social inadequacy. And the only time we can experience something is through inexperience. So the beautiful piece here is that as an emotional being, as someone who has the solar plex defined, having the solar plex defined, when you're correct and you're riding the wave instead of being tossed and turned, then the rest of us, the 50% of the population that do not have it defined, can amplify healthy emotions. But right now what's taking place is The emotional field is absolutely distorted because we've handed it over to the mind. We spew out all kinds of stuff. We shame people. And the whole point of this is so that everybody can be healthy, and we can be healthy by being correct. And if you have the emotional solar plex defined, drop into the absolute beauty of your emotional wave. Allow for the hope, allow for the pain. Move yourself through that by just surrendering to the inexperience so that you can come to experience. And the rest of us then can amplify healthy waves. So the gate of crisis, this darkening of the light. As I read through these, you're going to understand at a deeper level what this darkening of the light is all about. So there is the rule of cycles in which decline is a natural but not enduring state. Now, at the time of this recording, our world is absolutely tipsy-turvy. And the rule of cycles says that decline is natural. For every up, there has to be a down. For every up, there has to be a down. That's just how our particular Maya works. It's not enduring. The down isn't going to happen forever. The down is going to happen until we've ridden that piece of the wave, and then as humanity moves up, then we get to come up, back up to the hope of the wave. So the 36 has the right angle cross of Eden. So here, if you are on the right angle cross of Eden, you carry a light in your heart of how life can be filled with love, and yet you encounter much crisis. It is a lifelong journey to return to the Garden of Eden and that place of love and light and intelligence. You may be on the juxtaposition cross of crisis. You become an expert in becoming the bridge between crisis and trust in oneself as you give numerous experiences, as you have numerous experiences in life that guide you to peace and unity. And then the left angle cross of the plane, your karma is to assist the disadvantaged to walk through crisis into a smoother path. Okay. So if you have any one of those crosses, the gate of crisis is going to be a part of your life. And that gate of crisis is one of our greatest teachers, letting us know about cycles, introducing us to the darkening of the light. And then again, the lightening of the dark, because there's always the up and the down. So now let's walk through this and get a depth of this 36 gate. So crisis, the first line, the foundation is resistance. So the energy and determination to persevere in the face of opposition. The emotional power to handle crisis. So resisting that urge to let the fear of inadequacy hold you back. Okay? Just know that you can persevere. You can move through any crisis, any opposition. You have the emotional power. So the over-principled resistance that rather than being selective in resistance and thus less at risk will maintain normal patterns and incur opposition. A resistance to change that will always bring crisis. So if we're resisting it, digging in our heels, then all of a sudden it's very, very difficult to walk through the inadequacy. We get caught up in the inadequacy instead of walking through it. And now we move to the second line. And the second line is all about support. So it is the assistance to others in times of decline. So now that we have just said, okay, we can persevere through this opposition. We can, be emotionally strong. Now we can assist and support others in times of decline. So the application of imagination to schemes which benefit others. Feelings that can benefit others in times of crisis. So like I said, when you are naturally, right? I'm putting in the keynotes here. Naturally. When you are naturally allowing for the wave, and you naturally allow that wave, to ebb and flow, and you're fully supported by your feelings as someone who is emotionally defined, you can support others and you can assist others in times of decline, because those are the times. And a good place to witness this is on the stock market. So the stock market tickers, they go up and they go down, they go up and they go down. And really what that is that's an emotional representation of either the company or the indices or the industry, whatever it is. It's the fear or, the pain or the pleasure, the fear of it all. So when healthy, you get to then support people and go, hey, there are going to be natural times of decline. We're all going to feel these downs in our lives, always. That's how humans are designed to be. But you, as someone who, either has this gait and trait or has the emotional solar plex defined, it's about being healthy and understanding that the emotions come and go, they ebb and flow, and you get to naturally support people if you have this gait, if you have this particular line value, or if you have the emotional solar plex. So the more practical and individual assistance, but only when unavoidable and not as a general principle. Selective assistance in times of crisis. So there can be times that you're very selective, because there could be resistance there, and then you're selective. So not that these are bad. Again, I keep saying this over and over and over. The exaltation or the detriment of every line, it's not that it's good or bad. It's just that one is going to feel more graceful. The other one is going to feel more challenging. So third line, transition. So the point at which decline has exhausted its power. So we all see this. This is the uptick. This is where, we've hit rock bottom type thing, and then we're on our way up. So the ability to establish a new order out of the ashes of the old. The emotional depth to endure crisis and embrace change. We are all going to hit rock bottom. We are all going to, be this crumple of ashes on the bottom. At some point in our life, there's going to be something that takes us into the depths of our own darkening. We need to go there, you guys. We need to drop deep into our shadow so that we can then come out on the other side. And we can do this by completely embracing change, and that goes for every single person. But if this is a part of who you are, you will have this at a deeper sense. So the tendency in renewal to try to assimilate the remains of the old order into the new, with the risk that it may rise against the old order once it has regained its strengths. The embrace of the change, but with feelings that will not let go of the past. So, what can happen here is that we bring a bunch of this darkening with us, and we don't let go of it, and we feel this shame about it, and our transition is then very cluttered. We can't transition from the bottom of the wave up to the top of the wave because we're carrying all this baggage, and that uphill slope feels very, very difficult. So then the fourth line is espionage. So the ability to prepare for and anticipate decline through the accumulation of secret or privileged information. The realization that knowledge, both covert and esoteric, is necessary if one is to be prepared for crisis and change. the tendency in recognizing the strengths of the opposition to accept the inevitability of decline, and rather than resist, to offer one's service to guarantee survival. That double agent, crisis, knowledge that is available to others for a price. So, these two, they're very interesting. I watch them play out in the world. I am someone who loves to pay attention to everything, and I investigate so much stuff. But I also, I watch the stock market. I do have investments. I follow a few people, and it is so interesting to watch how this double agent, having covert information, having insider knowledge per se, not insider as in, how they want to say illegal insider, but, experts that have really followed the game really deeply, because I don't follow the game deeply, but that covert knowledge and then my esoteric ability to make decisions assists me in making investments. And it prepares me for the crisis. So having double agents in the world, people that play both sides of the fence in this espionage, can feel very challenging. And that kind of information always comes at a price. Always. These experts that are playing the game and steeply involved in the game, they want to be paid beautifully for it. So then the underground. Now remember, this is how we're externalizing crisis on our planet. We're externalizing it through espionage? Yeah. Being able to, be prepared for change. And knowing that there's a price to pay for change. So when we look at this on a larger view, and you guys have seen this in the Global Cycles video that I did on YouTube and that I put here in the introduction. There's this global orchestrated directory, and there's nothing that you and I can do about it except for surrender to the larger movie. There's a larger program happening. And when we can do that and just recognize how this is all playing out, how we are designed to interact with it, then all of a sudden the crisis, we are more prepared for it because we are closer and allowing for our human design, our frequency to shine through us. We're totally prepared for any crisis when we do that. Is there a price to pay when, mentally we're trying to figure it all out? Yeah, there definitely is. So the fifth line is the underground, perfected survival regardless of conditions. The immunity to crisis as both generator and survivor. So we are immune to generating crisis, and we are immune to surviving crisis. So a nervousness that can lead to self-betrayal, nervousness in times of crisis. So remember, if we are not prepared with the reconnection or repairing of our higher self with this experience that we're having in this meat suit, and if we're not prepared by doing so and by being this self-reflected witness, we've betrayed ourselves. We've completely betrayed ourselves, and the price for that might get a little high. Now, the justice that comes in all of this I absolutely love the exaltation of this. So the inevitable survival of right, the knowledge and attendant fate that the powers of darkness eventually destroy themselves. Those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. The correctness of crisis when it arises out of pure feelings, and a profound sorrow and cynicism that is not diminished by the understanding that the darkness is self-annihilating. The sorrow of cynicism that comes with seeing that despite the correctness of feelings, there's always crisis. We always have to go through a crisis. It's natural. Like I said on the last slide, it's natural. But what I love is that the dark will destroy themselves. And it always has this uptick up to the top, But a lot of times in that darkness, gods will make us go mad in order to destroy that shadow, that darkness. Now, I see this playing out right now in our world. Not that it is a part of any cycle, or not that at the time of this recording it's not in the transits, but this is what happens: is gods make those that are absolutely in their head completely mad, because there is an inevitable survival of right. Now we're going to move to the gate of progress, and the gate of progress also is a manifested energy, right? We are in this channel. So there's also in the stream of awareness. It is the collective sensing. It's about sharing. And the center is the throat. So let me just correct that. So it is in the center of the throat. And the quarter is the form. So what you're going to notice is that when I get to the quarters and introduce you guys to all of this and walk you through this story, is that all of the channels that are, or all of the gates, that are involved in the throat center are down here in the form. Because manifestation is the building, is really the forming of our reality. And it comes through verbalization, it comes through action, it comes through communication. So form is built by manifesting. But if you, what you're going to notice is that manifestation happens through the connection to the motors. It's not mental. Communication happens from the mental aspect. The manifestation takes place from the connection to the body graph and the motors. The timeline is always past, again, when we're in the abstract, because we have to go through the experience in order to walk through that experience and then reflect on it. This is the gate of sexual boredom. So what happens here is, in the 41, we have this hunger. The gauge is saying, hey, we need to be satiated. So the 35, what it is saying is we've come to the end, we've come to the progress. So we've used it up, we've manifested, now we have to start this process over. So it can get bored, because it's like, I just orgasmed. I need it to orgasm again. Now I'm bored. I just did it. I got the t-shirt. Did that, done that, or been there, done that, done. So there's this boredom. So it will either leave or stay in an experience based off of what it came to for progress, based off of the cycle. So it must enter in properly, or it keeps repeating things trying to find satisfaction. The voice here is I experience. That's something that we're going to, really get into when we discuss each one of these and the quarters. But I experience, I feel like a change. So there's either encouragement here or disencouragement here. So if you have this in your chart, you will probably notice that you speak a lot about, I feel like this, or I feel like that, or I had this experience. And then you will encourage or discourage people from having or not an experience. So the completion of the experience as the change or progress is manifested. So it could get very bored because there's a completion here. Now I'm bored. So the experience gets left behind. The gauge goes to 0 and a new hunger arises. So again, I feel like a new experience or not. I experience or not. I feel or not. I progress through experience or not. Again, abstract emotional experiential sharing of desire. So the encouraging or disencouraging action and taking action collectively. Now, what I want you to really grasp is this. Progress. Progress is collective. Here we are. We're in this gate of change. Progress is collective. This change is collective. Progress is collective. However, like I discussed in the 41st gate, it's not about having collective desires. It's about you absolutely getting in tune with your frequency and operating from there, so what you need is provided. And then, once you're correct, and you've progressed, and you've mutated, and you've come to your own breakthroughs and insights, and you've integrated your intuition, then all of a sudden, the healthy progression of the collective happens versus the unhealthy degression or regression. So this is a gate of change through cycles. Here's a place of satiating the appetite for change. This is the jack of all trades. So, the jack of all trades is experientially talented. So the 3635 is the jack of all trades, and it is experientially talented. This is not goal-oriented. Manifestation is purely experiential. So that's what's really important here, is that manifestation is not goal-oriented. There is no perfection on this side. Abstract can never perfect. It is more of a been there, done that. How to go through the process as self. So as you are driven by your relentless curiosity and high expectations to share the sheer exhilaration of exploring new horizons with others around you, you could constantly need new experiences and the feeling of change and progress in your life. You are focused on collecting a variety of experiences in order to learn from them rather than repeating experiences to master them. Your hunger for new experiences and the need to see what or who is on the other side of the mountain can keep you healthy and alert. When entering into an experience for its own sake and remaining an objective observer, the wisdom you gain and share from your experiences carries the potential to change others. Your voice says, I feel like a change. I've experienced. So important to grasp that the healthier you are, the healthier the collective process can take place. And manifestation is purely existential. It is not goal-oriented. Now let's walk through the lines here. So the channel of progress, the gate of progress, the gate of change, by design, progress cannot exist in a vacuum and is dependent on interaction. So of course, the closer you are and the more you allow your frequency to flow through you without clutter, without distraction, without distortion, you will have interactions with others. And that interaction with the other allows for the collective progress to happen in a healthy way. So if you have the 35th gate, you may or may not have the right ankle cross of consciousness. I'm bringing you this information so that you can see the keynoting that happens in here. So you are here to question why we are here and to question the meaning of it all. So the ultimate witnesser as that 35th gate. The juxtaposition or the bridge of experience. So you push the boundaries of life. Being conscious in the experience is the bridge you bring to others. The right or left angle cross of separation, objectively separating from the collective, and this helps the collective progress, or either, it can regress if we're being very subjective versus objective. So the 35th gate in the throat, where we manifest, where we communicate progress, where we, take action on progress. It begins with humility and the ability to accept rejection. Not every experience is for us. The artist that accepts rejection as part of the process. acceptance of change, and rejection as part of the process. We have to be, there has to be some humility here. Not every experience, that we have, not every progressive change is going to just be accepted. Lots of people are going to reject it. We're talking about the collective here, you guys. They don't like change. So rejection is going to be massive here. So a self-destructive rejection, self-destructive reaction to rejection. The loss of worth, change, and rejection as humiliation. Instead of being, humble, having humility, and knowing that not everybody can go through the change. And one of Ra's biggest quotes that, always bangs back into me is what the voice told him is only 4% of the population is going to be able to awaken to changes. Period. If that's you, you're here, congratulations. Because that is the whole human experiential way, is change. It's not about staying stagnant. And we see this right now on our planet. We are moving from the cross of planning to the cross of the sleeping phoenix. And holy man, those that have, sacrificed their soul to the cross of planning do not want to let that go. They do not want the change to happen. So they are fully rejecting it. And yet, when we just relax into it, the progress will happen. Naturally, there's going to be, this creative block when it comes to progress. A lack of inspiration which stops progress. Isn't that interesting? That feels very negative. So the attunement with the vagaries of the muse and the recognition, creativity is energy that ebbs and flows. Creativity and muse will always come and go. So the lack of inspiration that stops progress. This is telling us there are ebbs and flows. When we walk through the dark, this ebb, stops the inspiration, gives us this creative block. And then all of a sudden it can flow, and it naturally flows. So it's going to come and go, and then all of a sudden we're full of inspiration, and progress begins again. There is this natural ebb and flow. So the need to take action, however mundane, to overcome the feelings of emptiness. The actions being uninspired do not further progress. The need for change and the fear of stasis. So, here we have this rejection. There's a rejection process. We don't want change. And then all of a sudden we flip over here and the mental plane takes over at times. And it's like, oh, we need change just for change's sake. We don't want to be in this ebb and flow. We don't want to be in the ebb. We got to always be in the flow. Well, there's natural cycles here. So just be aware if the exaltation, if this particular exaltation is in your design, just be aware. There's this need for change and a fear of stasis. Well, if you're taking uninspired action, it doesn't further progress. But sometimes it's going to happen, right? Because it is a part of who you are. There are going to be creative blocks. So watch how it plays out in your life. I'm not saying that all of these challenges are bad. They are showing up because we need the this and the that. So the collaboration of progress and change, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Again, the vacuum. We are not in a vacuum. We're not in this alone. We are dependent on the interaction. So the benefic encouragement of others that expands personal as well as communal progress. The ability to bring progressive change into others' lives. And the need to be the center that ignores the importance of others. The need to be the center of progress. Now let's move over here to hunger. So the insatiable appetite for progress. Less severe, symbolized by the phases of the moon, the drive may be obsessive when the moon is full, but like the fading of the moon, the obsession abates. Change for change's sake, the drive lessens with age. So isn't it interesting where the 41st gate at the very bottom of this experiential way had hunger in it. Now, what are we externalizing in the 35th gate in the throat center of, taking action? Hunger. So now do you see how there's these spirals that can take place? The altruism here, the sacrifice of personal communal progress. The sacrifice of personal for communal progress. The principles of interaction and harmony communicated successfully for the benefit of the whole. Progressive communication that can bring beneficial change to the whole. Jupiter in detriment. Though altruistic and a cooperative in general, a personal regret that in interaction a greater personal expansion had been lost. Progressive communication, but always the sense that personal progress has been sacrificed. This is a very, very interesting look at this. Because really, we are just one aspect of the expansion that we call God. And really, we are sacrificing ourselves so that the expansion can happen through us. That is what altruism is. Now, you can look at this in a very sadistic kind of way as well. I don't look at this as though we are sacrificing our meat suits or sacrificing in a way that's sadistic. I am looking at this as, exactly how Ra has indicated. We are all designed to, help the whole benefit. And then the 35th gate, once we've hit this altruism, what are we doing? We're looking out. This rectification, the energy to correct. The process of crystallization coupled with ambition that assures timely and effective correction. Progressive change that results in correction. As we continue to walk, as we continue to navigate, there is this beautiful progressive change that results from correction. A destructive tendency that in its personal application may be the necessity or necessary severity to ensure correction, but when applied generally, it will meet with resistance and tend to reinforce rather than rectify situations. Correction which brings change through severity and even destruction and will always meet resistance. We are designed to just allow for the expansion of the whole to happen through us. But the minute there's destruction, there's going to be resistance. So the whole channel, now that we know the two parts, the whole channel, this channel of transitoriness, the channel of the experiencer, this is the design of the jack of all trades. You have the willingness to try anything and everything in order to get things moving in the direction of progress. You're driven to seek and gather wisdom from collective experiences that promise something new and better in your work and life. Rather than feel let down if the new experience fails to meet your expectations, the talent you can develop here is to embrace, accept, and surrender fully to living each experience for its own sake. Your potential life accomplishment is that you will have tasted, touched, and felt many things from which you have gleaned wisdom that you can make available to others. You inspire others to really seize the day. The trap of this channel is the great expectation. So wait out the wave and enter in only when clear. Transforming the anger of the manifested channel happens through clarity, so the experience can be fully self-reflected. Again, this is we have sexual talent here. So this is the channel of sexual talent. And we move from inexperience to experience. So you have a natural ebb and flow of your experiences that you have. After the experience, the highs and lows are not where the story is to be told. The story is to be told as the wave moves into clarity. The moment the orgasm happens, as this is a sexual experience channel, wait as the wave goes down from the highs to reflect, kind of like food, speaking of it while you are eating is not the same as speaking about it while you are digesting it. Sleep on the experience and then tell the story, as the reflection of the experience is best left until the experience has happened. So being present in the experience then allows for the connection to your fuel gauge. So when I look at this, again, we have this experiential, movement. We have this hunger. So we begin to fuel that hunger. We start to fill up the fuel gauge here, and then we, move through the experience, and that fuel is being used up. But you know what's really funny? Is that we might think, oh yeah, we're having this really, really delicious meal, and then all of a sudden we start, digesting it. Oh, geez, now I don't really feel all that good. And then all of a sudden, how do we know if it was an actual really good meal or not? Elimination. Now, I'm not saying the 35th gate is elimination. Actually, elimination actually happens in the 45. But I'm bringing this up because that's when we empty out the tank. And our poop gives us the greatest story of our, what we just ingested. Is the poop healthy? Is it hard? Are you hydrated correctly? Did the poop come out in an S shape? All of those kind of things. And again, I am not, please listen to me, I am not saying that the 35th gate is about elimination, because it's actually the 45th gate. However, that's, that experience. We have no idea, how, if the experience was good for us or not until the experience has happened, till we get to the end, till we poop it out. Was it good? Was it not good? So now the application. What happens, when you're in a crisis? What's going on? Do you freak out? Do you clutter up in that mind and get all freaky and want to try to figure it out? And even though, nothing is to be figured out, it's to be about experienced, all of a sudden, there's no progress. We come to a regression. Or are you able to just let that experience flow? Let those things happen in your life so that you can come to a real, sense of why did that happen? Now, are you comfortable with waiting for clarity? So that the full expression of self can emerge from the experience. Now again, even if you do not even have this channel, or you do not even have the emotional intelligence defined, maybe you have nothing here. Our construct is still built off of this. So the construct itself has this energy in it. So recognize situations. Watch the ebbs and flows. Are you getting caught up in the collective garbage? And are you getting tossed and turned by the wave? These are the things that we get to witness and then see them and then use the human design system as the application of our lives. All right, so we will then move on to the channel of maturation.